Hiya, Delphine here from Embody My Truth. I just wanted to say a few words about routines and rituals, and kind of, what's helpful, what's not so helpful, and maybe just come at it from a few different angles, because this is obviously a massive topic that's coming up at the moment, and that people are struggling with, or there's a lot of stuff going, being talked about when it comes to making sure you have certain things in place. But where I where I got thinking about it myself was I had an amazing like physical training session this morning with a guy that I've been doing sessions with for on and off for about a year now. I'm not somebody who would have normally gone into a gym. I thought that they sort of made my heart sink a bit and my soul shrink a bit. So I was like definitely not a strength training kind of person. That's not my thing. But actually, it's something that I got into because I realized I was doing a lot of yoga and stretching, but I needed something more kind of strengthening and to give myself a sense of groundedness in my body and my legs, and yeah, to feel strong and mobile and flexible. So mobility is really important as well to me. So I happened upon this person who, Simon Griffin, if anyone's looking for a trainer in the comfort of their own home, um, or discomfort or chaos of their own home, depending on the time. But yeah, because it's somebody that I had been kind of doing a session a week pretty much with regularly. And it's something that had already been incorporated as something very resourcing and nourishing in my life. Today's session was just so amazing. It was really very kind of nourishing and grounding, and has been such a kind of a positive thing in my day. And I was amazed at the adaptations. He in particular is quite good at adapting things to people who are resistant to traditional methods. So I was really lucky because we used a couple of bottles of like fizzy water and whatever, like elastics and things that I had. And once you have like a chair and some furniture, any kind of creative instructor will be able to adapt. So it was a really positive experience for me. So I started to think that, as I reshape my schedule, starting with the things that are positive in your life and starting with the things that are genuinely nourishing is a really good kind of way to sneak into the whole creating new routines thing, because it is important. It's really important to recognize that we actually have agency. We have a sense of power. We can have a sense of power, and we have kind of that capacity to do things for ourselves despite the external chaos. That's something that we can put in place for ourselves in the smallest of ways. So it doesn't even need to be like a formal organized session of any sort. Even things like a cup of tea, a shower, kind of playing around with when feels like a good time to make that a bit of a ritual. And it's merely the kind of being conscious about the fact that you're calling it a ritual, or that you're doing it in a way that can be supportive to you, and recognizing that there's an emotional and a mental health component to any kind of regularly repeated activity that can maybe help kind of open up a doorway into, yeah, this is important now, this is not something to be rushed. So rather than kind of saying, oh, I need to rush through the end of my dinner and my cup of tea because, or coffee or whatever, because there's just so much else to contend with, or recognizing that can actually be a moment of ritual and nourishment. And whatever it is, whatever the activity or the action, even kind of a small little like changing up something in your daily kind of getting dressed routine, or how you kind of punctuate your day. It's more the fact that it's sending yourself a signal of, yeah, I'm doing something familiar. This can be a new grounding thing. This is something I am doing for myself. It's more that than the thing itself. It can be, I mean, the thing itself can also be very beneficial, like if it is exercise or whatever. But or taking care of your most important needs, that can become a ritual as well. So if you feel good after doing some kind of personal admin or something that is grounding in your life or your work, something that makes you feel organized, makes you feel you have a sense of control over something at least, then those things are all part of rituals and routines. But what I would say is that if it's more to do with things that, like areas of your life that you struggle with, so a lot of my clients, we'd be talking about things like sleep or food, or things that are more like areas to do with self-sabotage. Those are probably not the areas to start suddenly magically thinking you're going to be able to overcome and conquer and create as these solid routines for yourself. So it's really to kind of be discerning with it and not use these new circumstances as another excuse to beat yourself with a kind of a criticism, and not to let your inner critic go mad on it. So to really orient more towards what is kind of an easy win, like low hanging fruit at the moment, definitely. Like a small thing that takes up not too much time, so that your inner critic can't be all like, oh, it has to be a big deal and it's not, you tried it once and it didn't work. Just like a small few rituals, like around kind of daily hygiene or food habits, or even kind of the way that you organize your personal space, moving things around to differentiate between work time and home time and kind of free time. Those little signals, like I would probably guess that once, like the small cup of tea type category one done every day at a very similar time and in a similar kind of consciousness of it being a ritual, will be more powerful than three big deal things that you've done across your week, because it's the ritual aspect of it that is very holding and grounding and soothing, and that creates a real feedback loop of self-trust and, okay, at least this is something that I can do. So yes, things like yoga and meditation are amazing, but if that's just not where it's at for you right now, anything else that can help you anchor back in yourself a little bit, and have a mindful few moments, even if it's during an activity, as well as external things that make you feel a sense of order, even if it's tidying things up, whatever feels resourcing, empowering, and nourishing, definitely taking that on as a daily ritual, even if it's not the type of thing that you might think is traditionally talked about as a ritual or as something to do with routine. Whatever it is for you, that's where it's helpful to start. And also maybe just to add in that there's like our inner child, our inner like animal self is massively activated at the moment. There's very primal reactions going on, and fight, flight, and fear, and freezing, and like all sorts of different kind of things going on at the moment. But just to kind of bear in mind that we all have an inner child as well, and the inner child is going through different things, different emotional needs and fears. But we also have an inner adult. So while it's so important to hold space for the needs of the inner child, and that is a lot of the work that I do, and to not rush it, allow it to be in whatever state it's in, and that really needs some kind of space holding at the moment as well. It's also important to remember that we do have an inner adult, that when at some point in the mix, when you're not in the panic on a stress response, your inner child is not acting out, you can draw down on your inner adult and that kind of more conscious self to put things in place for yourself that are empowering. And the more you do that when you're not in an activated state, the more you can access that then when you are freaking out, or when you do have a sense of loss of control, or you're emotionally just a wreck and you're so done and you're out of sorts. Then the more of those kind of like self-parenting basically things that you've done, the more you'll be able to draw on them more easily and without it being a big deal or a big kind of inner fight. So really kind of watching that balance between the inner child and the inner parent, and being that little bit more firm whenever possible, when you can draw on that more adult part of you to kind of go, no, this is where it's at the moment. You have to stop, you have to pause those things you think you should be doing, and having a 5-minute cup of tea or 10 minutes, like self-care, is radically important at the moment. So it's kind of bringing that sort of more kind of boundaries, sort of, I suppose, the masculine energy into play, and but around things that are self-soothing and self-caring. So I hope that helps in some way. And yeah, I'll be interested to see now in the coming weeks what kind of rituals myself and my clients will be adopting. I know there's already been things like kind of replacing the rituals that have been lost, and there's so much loss, of course, at the moment. But before and after a session, when it's an in-person session, clients of mine would normally be like walking into the session and walking home, or taking public transport. So one thing that people have come up with is the idea of maintaining that to some degree, like an alternative version of it. So any of your kind of weekly appointments or things that you normally do, if there can be some substitute for it, by like leaving the house and having a prolonged 30 minutes after the session, or after a yoga class, or whatever it is that you might have used to do, to carve out that extra like 10, 20, 30 minutes to kind of stay in the process and stay with yourself a little bit closer, and to find ways to change things up, whatever works in the new this new in-betweeny kind of paradigm when it comes to, as I said, shower and food and whatever. There's going to be some experimentation required before the new things kind of land, and these will stand to us all. Then whatever happens next, this kind of inner drawing on your inner parent and your rituals and routines will be so helpful going forward in life, because no matter what changes externally, you will know that you've been able to show up for yourself and make those things happen. But it doesn't grow overnight. It takes time and it takes practice and repetition for it to work. And I wish you all the best with gradually, gently but firmly implementing new routines and rituals to sustain yourself at this point in time, and to nourish yourself the best you can.